Body shot. Ooh, that hurt, didn't it?
When the adrenaline starts pumping and you know what you can do with this right hand, it's hard to not do that.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. And new and still, we got a little bit of both here at UFC 274. Controversy after we recorded our initial preview show for UFC 274, the Charles Oliveira scale gate, if you want to call it, it came to fruition. A lot of weirdness. We didn't talk about it, but now is the time to talk about it. It was a bit of a lackluster card, a bit of an exciting card at times, lackluster at times. But let me bring in my co-host to really break it down. The New Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber, AJ. Brother, hey man, we was just talking when the mics were cold, and we had said, how disappointed are you? No need to even go into specifics, but we just need to talk about this card, UFC 274. The face that you're giving me right there already goes to show that this card could have been better. There was a lot of good names on it, a lot of good matchups, but it doesn't always turn out to be a banger fest, right? We've had some fight nights recently that were a little more popular. So tell me how you are feeling. What did you think of UFC 274, brother?
Derick, I feel a little bit of a way because I was touting this card as one of the ones where you might want to drop the $75, man. There's some names on there, and yeah, we did get a little let down with Cowboy not being able to fight. Sure, the Randy Brown mix-up was even better, man, but there was a couple fights on there that just kind of had so much promise, and then fell a little bit short, man. But overall, I was still excited. But yeah, I agree with you. There were some fight night cards that did hold up a little bit better in the long term. How you feeling, brother?
Well, listen, man. Overall, right, there was 14 bouts originally slated to have 15. But like you had mentioned, Cowboy versus Lauzon, that bout got scrapped at the last minute because we'll talk about it in a second, but Cerrone, I guess he ate some bad tacos, got some food poisoning on fight day. Either way, listen, 14 bouts, I think there were only, 4 finishes, brother. 2 knockouts, 2 submissions. So that was a very low finish rate, lots of decisions. On the main card, bro, 3 split decisions. There was only 5 fights, 3 split decisions, lots of decisions overall on the card. Lots of split decisions. I think there's 5 total. Either way, yeah, I agree, man. I think we got let down a little bit, but the names who were there to really show up for the most part, they showed up, right? The Brandon Royvals, the Michael Chandlers, Charles Oliveira, now Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza. Let's talk about it very quickly, brother. And new. I mean, hey, brother, I'm not going to brag, but I saw it coming a mile away. When you're fighting a wrestler, your offense gets frozen. And I think that's kind of the main key that we need to take away from this. Now, let me get a little bit of a recap going right here. 3-1 a pop, brother. You got saved with the wash, and I think it's because this is for both of us, because it could have gone either way, right? But the main key is that our 5th fight, it got put away. We could have went with the Randy Brown, Khaos Williams, but let's just, we kept it for where it was. So 3-1 a pop. I am now 55-30. You are 57-28 on the year. So, brother, I think I had said going into this fight this weekend, either I'm going to be on top, you're going to be on top, or in some weird twist of fate, it's going to be a wash, and look at what happens. It is a wash. However, both of us went 1-1 on title fights. I wanted to ask you really quickly, before we really do a main card breakdown, what was the main takeaway that you got from both of these title fights? The and new and the and still.
Man, biggest thing to take away, styles make fights, I guess, man. No matter what it comes down to, I guess that old adage is probably the best one for it, because whether you want to have a hard time with the certain style of your opponent, or you want to say, fuck it, I'm going to run through and blitz through the style of my opponent and make it my fight. Yeah. Either way, you can get a win.
Yeah, either way, you can get a win. So folks who are listening at home and watching, of course, for the TLDR, I hit on Ovince, Preux, Michael Chandler, and Carla Esparza for the and new. However, I missed out with Justin Gaethje, Charles Oliveira. There's a lightweight champion, and his name is Charles Do Bronx Oliveira. Now, my man AJ, talk to the people. What did you get right? What did you get wrong?
Well, and that's the exact one, Derick. I got the champion, man, always will be for now, at least, Charles Oliveira. But then I missed on the Rose pick right there, man. Namajunas, same Chandler, same Preux. We're stuck together with those ones. But it was those championship ones that did the mix.
And those are the biggest ones. Sometimes I feel like we should have a multiplier. We should have like a bonus point on the championship bouts. But either way, it is a wash. So once again, like I said, folks, for our yearly total, our yearly sum, 55-30, am I? And 57-28 is AJ. He is still the leader by 2 fights, man. So next week we're gonna have to make something happen. I will say that. Now, AJ, before we get into things one last time, man, I do need to note that once again, subscriber count around, what are we at? 370, something like that. Yeah, let me just make sure that I'm right on this, because we can't let the good folks at home down. I need the accurate statement right here for the Free Thinkers Club. 373 subscribers as of the time that we were recording this right now, man. So we're getting up there slowly but surely. I say it every single week, but we've had a little more comment engagement recently. We've been having people talk about, hey man, those picks that you was dropping over there, you had a little something on there, right? This is the place, the platform to go if you want those great picks. AJ, my man, I mean, you're currently the leader, so you the one that really got the bragging rights right now. What is the one message you have to people that to really give them the exclamation point on why they should be following this program when they want to make some green in terms of their wagering?
Man, you know what? I always say the one thing is too, Derick, the proof is in the pudding. Ask any of the homies that I talked to, man. A homie last night won some big money on Michael Chandler just specifically because he didn't know anything about it, saying, I don't know, man. Tell me what to do. No idea. But it really is the numbers, man. 57 and 28. Same thing for you, Derick. I'll hold a lot of acclaim for you as well, man. 55 and 30. Nothing to scoff at, especially for the fact that we've been doing this not only just this year, but the year before, and the whole numbers hold true, man. Join the system, hit the subscribe button, make sure you know, because that way you're actually winning some money too, man. A lot of our friends out here are winning money. They put it in the comments, they're letting us know, hey, man, something you're saying in this prop bet is a value that goes overlooked in every other place I've been looking around for. Thank you. Come join us, man. It's a lot of fun.
Well, listen, my man AJ over here is Michael Chandler-esque in the way he cuts his promos, a real talker on the mic, the golden voice himself. And I will say, folks, we're going to talk about it in a second, but we hit on some props too. So not if you're not only trying to hit money line, but you're trying to make some additional money plus money on props, this is the place to go. You already know what time it is. And with that being said, I feel like without any further ado, we need to just get into the main card. Let's get it.
Have you seen that replay, buddy? Your head was bouncing around like a pinball machine.
Time for some main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ. Now, AJ, Charles Oliveira made a very bold statement, not only after getting stripped of the lightweight title, after losing it on the scales, man. Scale gate, half a pound over, the Brazilian's not coming in on a weight. I don't know what's happening, but he made a very interesting statement, and I want your take on it. He says, I am the champion, right? He says, at the end of the day, there's the lightweight champion has a name. His name is Charles Do Bronx Oliveira, but this is the one that I really, really felt some way about in a positive way. He said, I am the enlightened one. And I don't know if that was lost through translation, which maybe he was trying to say he was the chosen one, but enlightened one, chosen one. This is a man of God. This is a religious man. So I feel like there's a difference between being the champion and knowing you're the champion and believing you're the champion, and then believing you're the champion because you've been ordained by God. You know what I mean? I think there's a little difference in belief there, and that extra little bit in belief, I don't care what your religious affiliation is, religious or not, that can do something for you in a fight, especially when you're getting rocked every single one of your fights, and then you're coming back to either knock out your opponent or submit them. And that's exactly what he did to Justin Gaethje, brother. How impressive was Charles Oliveira being able to walk through the fire that is Justin Gaethje, hurt him, take the man's back, and choke him out? I mean, talk to me, brother. What do you think?
Wild, Derick. Absolutely wild. This dude's able to eat punches that would have knocked out a small horse. Literally, everybody's been saying it. Those punches would crack anybody and drop you out. You're out for a week. You're out sleeping teeth on the curb. Except for Charles Oliveira. He gets hit twice. One big uppercut, one I think it was a left, it was a right, whatever it was. Dropped him, put him down, but the jiu-jitsu saved him. Gaethje doesn't want to rush in because the jiu-jitsu, maybe it's that, maybe just he is the blessed one, man, the endowed one, the one that's going to be here, the warrior of God. Either way, very impressive. It was a hell of a thing to see his chin take those shots, brother.
I agree. And I think that there's one word we need to talk about when we speak about Charles Oliveira from this point forward, and it is well-rounded. I guess that's a compound word or whatever, but well-rounded. That is the point that I have here. Because at this point, we've seen a huge elevation in his game. His jiu-jitsu has always been there. He's been submitting people from day one. But his striking, his Muay Thai is taken to another level, brother. I mean, it is rare when you're seeing a dude like Charles Oliveira when's the last time you saw Justin Gaethje get cracked the way that he did against Charles Oliveira? I'm talking about a straight down the pipe, and you got Justin Gaethje on Queer Street. I think it was like the first or second punch that Oliveira landed in the fight. Gaethje was rocked right out the gate. So I'm like, okay, what kind of power does this man have? Or, this is my question to you, to me it seems like Charles Oliveira might not have the most ridiculous power, but his precision is ungodly. It is otherworldly. You know what I mean? The way he cracks you right on the chin with a straight punch, and then instead of going ground and pound, I'm going to smash you, jumps straight into jiu-jitsu mode and says, all right, we're going to grapple. I'm going to put you in a nice position, turn you into a pretzel, and then take your back and choke you. I mean, how impressive has the Muay Thai increased, in your opinion, that has led to higher success rates in the jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, Derek, I agree with you 100%, man. His striking, the improvement in Charles Oliveira's striking overall and fluidity with it, technique in general. You could hear Joe Rogan praise it all the time that he has the perfect technique. It does lend so much of a benefit for him to think like, oh yeah, like I can go and I can improve in this one aspect because I have that jiu-jitsu background where I'm so dominant. I can get submissions at any point. We even saw it. He's fluid, man. On the ground, he can roll from 1 to 2 to 3 and get the submission even on a very talented wrestler, in Justin Gaethje's aspect. But also there, the one thing that impresses me a little bit more than that, more so, same, either way, impresses me as well, is, which I think you have to also add into his well-roundedness that you were talking about, is his resilience, man. Being able to get cracked like that and still have the mental fortitude to push through, whether it's, him giving, God given, where he's thinking in his head that I'm the chosen one, that mental resilience is something to speak for that I think goes unappreciated by a lot of people that are sleeping on him.
Yeah, brother. And I mean, DC's been saying it, Rogan's been saying it, but everyone's like, where did this Charles Oliveira come from? Like this, we've seen this dude fight for years, and it wasn't this guy. There was some quit in him. There was some, I'm not willing to push forward when I'm faced with adversity. But now it's almost a necessary aspect of his game. He needs to get rocked to wake up a little bit and then push forward and destroy his opponent. I think there's also something to be said that Justin Gaethje, like you said, has that power that could knock out a small horse, hit Charles Oliveira with that, and Oliveira just gets back up and is like, all right, well, what's up? Let's scrap. Like, you can't sit there and jump into Charles Oliveira's guard. So you're giving him proper time to recover, stand back up, and be like, let's get back to the fight. That's the problem. He's so well-rounded. At this point, I think it's fair to say that Charles Oliveira is indeed the elite of the elite in the lightweight division. I mean, when you look at the people that he's been able to put away, it's been ridiculous. In his last 5, the only person he hasn't been able to finish is El Cucuy himself, which is going to be another note on how impressive Michael Chandler was at UFC 274, but that's not what we're talking about right now. This is the big takeaway from this specific matchup, AJ. Charles Oliveira is the first man to finish Justin Gaethje in the first round in his entire career. This is a dude who is built off of resilience. I mean, himself, Justin Gaethje. This dude is a war animal. This is a man who takes damage all day, and he goes about it very gladiator style. So in his 4 finishes, 4 times he's lost in his career, and they're all finishes. Eddie Alvarez finished him in the 3rd round. Dustin Poirier finished him in the 4th round. Khabib finished him in the 2nd round, and Oliveira finished him in the 1st round. So when we're talking about elite company right there, I mean, we're talking about the Khabibs, the Poiriers, the Eddie Alvarezes, and Oliveira is the only man that could finish him in the 1st round. Like, how much does that speak to you in terms of his greatness right now?
Man, that's insane because I didn't know that stat before you just said it right there, bro. That's wild because Justin Gaethje, he really is, and especially the mentality he had going into before his, his championship run, where he said he wanted to be the most entertaining fighter in the UFC, and then to change his mindset to be the champion. Sure, that mindset changed, but that grittiness, that willingness to be, the dude who's going to go in there hit for hit and be the most entertaining person, still there, and the chin of Justin Gaethje is always going. So to be able to be the guy who's finishing him in the 1st round. Again, more speaks to how well-rounded Charles Oliveira is growing year and year and year after and after, man. You have to keep counting all of these things back into how just serious this dude takes the game and takes his approach to martial arts, and that he's still working on all these aspects that in the past we've seen him suffer on, man. It speaks levels. It's very, very impressive. Unfortunately for the scale gate, that's like the one big asterisk, which is so hard. Whether the scale was always that half pound over, like some fighters are saying or whatnot, it's unfortunate, but it is very impressive either way, the fact that he's still growing.
Absolutely. And that's what I was going to say to kind of cap this off, is that all the cards were stacked against Charles Oliveira going into this fight. So that's what makes it even more impressive than I've already stated, is because he's the first UFC champion in the history of the company to lose his belt on the scales. Now, you think of DC, you think of Davidson Figueiredo when you think about these scale gate controversies. Now, DC might have gotten away with one, brother. The towel holding it up, I'm just going to say. But Charles Oliveira is officially the first man, right? Is it because he's Brazilian? Is it because he's a newish champion? I don't know. I don't even want to make those assumptions. But I will say I do think that a lot of commissions would have given the benefit of the doubt to a lot of other champions. I'll just say that. So not only do you have the deck stacked against you, right? You have all these mental issues going into the Justin Gaethje fight. You have Justin Gaethje kind of taunting, saying, you're still cutting weight. I'm over here already back at 165. And then you put on a stunning performance like this, brother. There's nothing else to say but Charles Do Bronx, you are the lightweight champion, whether you have the belt or not. You are the people's champion. And that's really, I think that's fair to say, to cap it off on that one, man. You have anything else for me?
I like it, man. Yeah. I agree. And that's exactly how I see it too. People's champ, man.
Yeah. Leave it like that. Charles Do Bronx on 11-fight win streak. He's finished the majority of those fights. I mean, come on, man. Whether we see Islam Makhachev or we see Conor McGregor fight for that vacant title, because he is now officially the #1 contender in the lightweight division, it does not matter. I do think Doe Bronx will reign supreme. And with that being said, we can move on from that championship matchup to another championship matchup. Now, AJ, man, you get your buddies up, right? You hit them up. They're not really MMA fans, but you're like, brother, I'm trying to tell you, you got to watch this MMA. You got to watch the UFC. This is the most exciting sport you can watch. Who cares about the Super Bowl? Who cares about baseball and basketball, the playoffs going on right now? I'm telling you, this is what you need to watch. And then you put on the Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza #2 fight. A pay-per-view, a title fight. And they say, are you fucking kidding me, bro? This is what you want me to watch? You think that I'm going to be a fan of this nonsense? A fight that in its totality, man, they landed a combined 68 total strikes throughout 5 rounds, brother. I believe in the first round, it was like a combined 6 strikes landed. Now, clearly, Carla Esparza, and new, she is the champion, the Cookie Monster who went, I think she's the fighter who has the longest time in between title runs, right? Back in 2014, she was the inaugural strawweight champion. 2022, nearly 8 years later, we shouldn't really say 7, but 8 years later, she wins it again. She is a 2-time strawweight champion, just like Rose Namajunas, who was proclaiming herself as the greatest strawweight champion of all time. I don't know about that anymore, but the grand point here, AJ, is who is more at fault for the lackluster performance, the lack of action here? Was it Carla Esparza's wrestling knack, the issues stylistically she was able to give Namajunas, or was it Namajunas just not wanting to pull the trigger?
Man, I mean, as much as I want to say it is the wrestling prowess of Carla Esparza, you know, the fact that Rose is in there scared to be able to be taken down. I think as much as I want to say it's Esparza's talent and you know the potential of that, I also think it a little bit goes more down to Rose Namajunas being scared of the takedown, of being held down, of the previous match in which they had, because that's exactly what happened, man. Being mauled and being held down, beat up, you know, face rubbed in the mud. It holds something, man. There's always that one little aspect about it. And if you don't have that moment where you crack that person in the beginning and get them scared of you, it's a hard one to deal with in a fight, man. I think that's what it looked like a little bit more, man. A little disappointing for the Rose fans, man. I was telling you, Derick, when the mics were cold, I was a little disappointed in this fight, man. I wanted to see, like you were saying, I tell all my friends, you want to see one of the baddest women in the world, man, the baddest strawweight in the world go at it. She's gonna come out, you know, some heat out the kitchen, hands, feet flying, good at defending ground game. So we're gonna see a match. You know, we're gonna see a tactical battle here. Sure, we saw the tactical battle, but not the entertaining tactical battle we wanted, man. And it was a little unfortunate, man. How you feeling about the whole event?
Well, it's like a duality for me. On one hand, I kind of saw the fight playing out like this. I didn't think it'd be this low action, but I did think that Carla Esparza and her wrestling was going to give Rose Namajunas a lot of problems. I thought she'd be able to secure more takedowns and actually hold Rose down. But that's how impressive Rose Namajunas is. I mean, Carla Esparza went 2 for 11 on her takedowns, and those takedowns that she got, I mean, it lasted all of 5 seconds maybe. She had a total control time of 22 seconds. Namajunas only had 10 seconds of control time. But the thing that really disappointed me, AJ, more than anything, to be honest with you, is Rose Namajunas' her kind of attitude in the cage and then her comments and statements after the fight. And the reason why is because obviously if you're a champion and you lose, you're going to take it hard, right? If you really care about that belt, you're going to take it hard. You're going to think that you won. So that's fair. I'm not mad at that. What I'm mad about is that some shades of her second fight against Weili Zhang entered into this fight. Now, AJ, let's take a trip down memory lane. Do you remember when Rose Namajunas was fighting Weili Zhang the second time? It ended up going all 5 rounds. I don't remember if it was a split decision or unanimous, but it was a close fight. Rounds 1 and 2, arguably, Weili Zhang, she won those rounds, right? And Rose Namajunas was going back to the corner, and she was being flustered. She was getting a little uncharacteristic in terms of what we've seen her as recently, because her persona today is much different than the thug persona that she had coming into the UFC. She was much more edgy, wild, you know what I mean? Had a chip on her shoulder, a little thuggish. That's how you get the nickname. But she's the sweetheart in today's, you know, in the eyes today. Now, what did we see against Esparza? We saw a little bit of that stare down. She's staring at Esparza while Esparza's walking back to her corner, you know, because Esparza is very emotionless. She's just kind of in there, indifferent, right? I guess that's the right term to use. So there's a little bit of that. But the key was at the very end of the fight when she snagged that last second takedown, which really didn't amount to anything. It was just a takedown. Like there was no damage, there was no nothing. And you could say the same thing as Esparza, I guess. But she kind of got hyped up like, oh, fuck yeah, like I won. You know what I mean? Like all that. And I was just thinking to myself, I was all like, dang, bro, like, Rose, man, did you see how the rest of the fight played out? You know what I mean? Like you didn't. Where is this coming from? This all feels so uncharacteristic, and it feels because you're not in that flow state. She never reached that flow state that is so beautiful to watch. And this is no disrespect to Rose. This is just an off night, in my opinion. However, do you agree with me there? Did you see some of that uncharacteristic energy come out from her during this fight?
Yeah, I saw exactly what you're talking about, and I didn't really characterize it as that when I was watching it. I was more seeing it as Rose knowing the fight, how the fight was going, realizing that she didn't quite perform to her absolute ability. I agree with you on the flow state, man. Never hit that flow state that she was really trying to get into, but also at the end trying to hype herself up a little bit, trying to feel like there was something a little bit more behind it because of the lack of effort or the lack of experience that was being had by Rose. I think that's really kind of what, for me, I saw that manifesting as those look downs, as the getting up and being hyped and almost pushing Carla Esparza at the end, but still having that like thuggish mentality, that roughness that we saw to her, that I kind of like in a fighter. So I was down with it. I saw it happening. I was like, all right, cool, man. I'm with this. I like it. So I see what you're talking about, because it did feel a lot more forced than natural. Mm-hmm. And whether you like that or not, it definitely was out there and it was palpable by Rose. And I think that did play a lot into the fight as well.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. And believe it or not, I'm surprised we've even been able to spend at least 5 minutes speaking about this matchup because that's how low action it was. I'm actually surprised we're able to keep talking about it right now. But the last thing that I want to say is that Carla Esparza is the new champion. So where do we go from here? Obviously, Namajunas had an off night. And when you're champion, it's tough when you have an off night. But being that Carla's the champion, you already have Jessica Andrade calling her out. You have Marina Hart. Basically, I'm just going to keep it short. The entire strawweight division is like clamoring to say, like, I want to fight Esparza. Like, do you think, here's the big question, can Esparza in her career, because if she loses the title here, who's to say she gets another shot back at it, right? Will she ever be able to make one single title defense now that she has the new strawweight championship? Or do you think that the title is just going to be skipping hands all over the place now that there's a new champ?
You're saying over and under to 0.5?
Yeah.
I'm going to go over. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt, man. Okay. I think she can do it once. I think she can. I don't know about twice. I don't know once a really talented, multiple striker and wrestler goes, but we'll see.
Well, Ioane and Jacek versus Weili Zhang might be the number one contender fight, right? And last time I remember, Ioane beat Esparza in her first title defense, and Esparza's first title defense to win the championship. Andrade wants to fight her. Who's to say? Marina Rodriguez wants to fight her, but she just lost a very close split decision against Esparza. I mean, like I said, man, I'm going to say no, I don't think we're getting a title defense. And you see how, like, I'm not like a super huge fan of Carla Esparza. I think her wrestling is very effective, but I think that now, especially we saw it's always been one dimensional. We know what she's trying to do, but I think that in a lot of other circumstances, she might not have gotten awarded the split decision in this fight. You know what I mean? It's like, you got to beat the champ to be the champ. And even though everyone hates to hear that, we saw it with John Jones and Dominic Reyes. You know what I mean? We've seen it with a bunch of other champions. So I will just leave it there. Carla Esparza and folks, in case you forgot and you didn't want to place the prop that I gifted you guys, I said Carla Esparza on points. Let's not just take the plus money we were already at. She came in at plus 170. I said, give me the plus 225 on points, and Carla Esparza did it on points. So I will, that is my Mother's Day gift to all of you fine folks. By the way, happy Mother's Day, folks. All right, man. AJ, brother, now this is the time to talk about the kick heard around the world. Now, before we talk about this, and for the folks who are listening, you should really tune into the YouTube channel, because sometimes we do put into these beautiful photos to kind of encapsulate what a moment was. And I think that we had a knockout of the year contender on our hands. Not just a knockout of the year, like one of the best knockouts of all time. And the reason why I say that is because when we saw Anderson Silva do a front kick to Vitor Belfort's chin to put the man unconscious, we said, this is some Matrix shit right here. This is something you never see. This is the knockout of knockouts right here. What was the equivalent of the Anderson Silva kick, except less technical? And by less technical, I mean this is a dude trying to punt a football 60 yards. This is a dude trying to hit a field goal from 70 yards out. And this was the face of Tony Ferguson after Michael Chandler punted his chin into the stands. Now, AJ, this is worse than the Frankie Edgar face that was made when Chito Vera hit the front kick. So there's two ways we can think about this. One, amazing by Michael Chandler, right? This is really probably going to be the ultimate highlight of his entire career. It's a shame that it's not a title fight, but that's neither here nor there. The other way you could take away from it is, damn, Chito Vera was the man with the front kick just a couple weeks ago, and now you have been surpassed, my man. So give me your thoughts on this, brother.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, if you're Cheeto, that one burns. That one burns because this was such a perfect front kick, man. He set it up beautifully. He even talked about it. He's like, we all saw it. We saw it in the thing, and especially after the little bit of turmoil that was going on in the fight, man, that was a scrap. This was
Absolutely.
a beautiful one. What I like about this picture you pulled up, Derick, this is perfect technique, man. You can see he has that hollow hole to the abs, full extension. Ball of the foot right on the chin. Tony didn't see it at all. He's reaching to catch. Oof, man, this is beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. So, AJ, oh, that's not what I wanted to take down. AJ, brother. So the point that you hit on is very important. El Cucuy was back. It felt like it, at least. Round one, I mean, he is killing the game. He's hurting Michael Chandler. He's making Michael Chandler become that wrestler that he was talking about. But Tony Ferguson also contradicted himself when he said, I'm going back to my roots. I'm going back to my wrestling. And he did all of no wrestling. He did all boxing. So that's totally cool. And I'm a little surprised that Chandler didn't decide to shoot earlier because I thought that would have been the most effective game plan against Tony. Not strike with him because that's his best shot of winning. But let me take him down. Obviously, you have to watch out for the submission threat, but use that ground and pound that Michael Chandler put on him at the end of round one. Where does this put Tony Ferguson in your book, man? He went from a 12-fight win streak to a 4-fight losing streak where he has, I think this is the only time he's been finished, right? Or maybe 2 times. Justin Gaethje, where honestly they could have let that go the rest of the round, but you don't want that brain damage, right? And this one where you literally got flatlined. Who flatlines Tony Ferguson like this, AJ? Nobody does. So where do you go if you went from 12 fights in a row winning the baddest division on the planet to 4-fight losing skid right now? Dana says he's still an elite top 10 fighter, but what do you think?
I agree with Dana, man. He's still an elite top 10 fighter. The problem is he's not top 5 anymore. Mm-hmm. And the real problem for Tony Ferguson is you can't put him on like the undercards. You know, you can't really put this dude on the not even on the early prelims, man. He sells so much that it'd be such wasted money from the UFC not to put this dude in highlight matches. And the double-edged sword we just saw for Tony Ferguson is that he's back, man. He's dangerous. So you can't put him in there with some young gun that's not going to be able to defend himself. You have the responsibility to give him a good match, give him somebody that can actually, not get completely injured in there. And you got to sell money, man. He's in a really precarious spot because where do you really start feeding him? And with Tony Ferguson, he's a big ego fighter. So you don't really want him to feel like you're shunning him, to the bottom, relegated to the gatekeepers around number 7 and whatnot. But either way, you still want to – I'll scoot over for you, Derick.
No, you good, bro.
You still want him to have entertaining matches and entertaining, a good time. You still want to be able to have him be the person that he is, man. So he's in a real weird spot. I'm thinking that number 5, that number 6 spot, somewhere around there, fighting maybe not – not prospects, but contenders. You feel what I'm saying? Where would you put Tony Ferguson in this whole mix?
Well, brother, I mean, it kind of relegates him to a gatekeeper in the top 10 division, right? You know what I mean? He's kind of has to be that guy where it's like you want to get to that next elite tier of fighters. Well, you got to beat Tony Ferguson. And we never really thought it would get to this point because this is a man who's been a perennial top 5 fighter for how many years now? You know what I mean? This is a dude who's supposed to fight for – he had a guaranteed title shot against Khabib. Tears his knee up. The fight gets rescheduled a billion times. Fights Justin Gaethje, and that was the beginning of the end right there, man. He says, I'm going to opt to fight Gaethje instead of just wait it out for this title shot, and boom. Now, four losses later, here we are. We don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty. He probably needs to take a lot of time off because, listen, brother, you get your head punted into the stands like this, that's not a good look. This picture, though, does this encapsulate it a little better right here, man? I mean, this dude's forehead is flat on the mat. He was unconscious for a solid minute, man, after... And here's the worst thing. He was unconscious for a solid minute after he got knocked out, and Michael Chandler did like 4 backflips like right after. So there's nothing worse than getting separated from your consciousness than waking up and seeing a dude backflipping over your body. Like that's to me, this is the most disrespect, and this is not disrespect in a bad way, but disrespect in just, the fight game. But this is one of those moments that can make or break you. We need to see the mental resilience of Tony Ferguson, because can he come back from such a debilitating, embarrassing loss like this? Like, can you mentally come back from that? What do you think?
Man, I think so, just because he is that ego fighter. He does have that big persona to him, and I think whether he does or he doesn't in the first fight, he's going to fake it, so we're not going to know. And if he has a good fight after he comes back from this, then, he'll be able to resurge. But that's going to be a hard one, man. Somebody doing the shenanigans of doing 4 backflips after he knocks you cold while you're, booty to the sky.
Yeah.
Whew, it's gonna be a hard one for El Kukui, man. My wishes are with him, man.
I agree with you, brother. So this is the last piece that I have on this. For a Tony Ferguson, a lot of his persona is the bravado of I'm gonna ankle pick you at the ceremonial weigh-ins. You know what I mean? I'm gonna talk all this trash, shades and blades. You know what I mean? Come on, baby, shades and blades, elbows, let's go. You know, that's a lot of that. But how can you talk that mess when you just got your head punted into the stands? And I'm not even saying that in like a derogatory sense, but I don't know how else to describe this other than Michael Chandler literally tried to kick a field goal 70 yards and landed on this dude's chin. And there's a reason why for folks at home who are like, bro, go back to pride rules, soccer kicks, you know what I mean? Like, let's stomp their heads in. Like, you don't want that. I don't think you quite understand the how would you say, the detriment that has on a fighter. You know what I mean? Like, bro, you're not trying to get curb stomped or soccer kicked. Like, that's not what we want. There's going to be real mental repercussions and CTE damage and all that. But a win is a win. And Michael Chandler, he is definitely in that perennial top 5 now. Now, he is that dude who is like, he has to be within that title mix at all times because we know he has the explosiveness to put anybody's lights out at any given time. Now, a 3-round, 5-round banger, that might not be the same thing. But if it goes round 1, round 2, man, Michael Chandler can do some devastating things to you. You have anything else on this fight, brother?
I think you actually just brought up, man, how big of a star do you find Michael Chandler being, man? Because with that aspect and the mic time he has and how he's calling out, Conor McGregor, and the fact that you put this dude in there, it's gonna be fireworks no matter what. Could he be the next big cash cow? I mean, he already is Dana White's favorite fighter. How close do you seeing it be the cash cow? Because when you were just talking about it right there, that's what came into my mind. Like, I could see money being made on this guy.
I see a more popular, even though it's weird because Justin Gaethje going into this fight, right? Justin Gaethje had, 9 fights, 10 performance bonuses, or like 10 bonus awards, right, in his 9 fights. Which is like, how do you have more bonuses than you have fights? But you know what I mean? He had that, right? I see Michael Chandler being an even more popular version of Justin Gaethje now. A dude who is right there, right next to the title, but every shot he gets, he just doesn't quite get it at the highest level. But he's still that entertaining, knock your socks off fighter. Does that sound like an apt kind of comparison?
Yeah, I could see it. I was exactly just thinking that, man. It sounds like every time you can really just put a highlight reel of this dude's even his last fights in the UFC, and people are going to be drawn in. The casuals, he's very casual friendly, I think is what I was trying to, wrap my mind around, because he's the American, he's the guy that's going to encapsulate,
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and that's why I was even going to say if Michael Chandler was headlining this card instead of Gaethje, I think it might have sold more tickets, to be honest with you, bro. To be completely honest, I don't think this one was a sellout, man. I was looking at a sheet that was showing all the resale tickets on there, and it was kind of a lot over there in Arizona. Even though it was a packed house, I do think that Michael Chandler would have probably been able to make it a little more popular just because, like you said, the mic time, man, this dude's an all-American hero. There's nothing else you could say on that. And folks, I'm going to be honest with you, that was basically the most exciting aspect of our main card. So let's progress into a couple of other fights. AJ, man, we had the nostalgia fight, right? We had the Shogun Rua versus Ovince St. Preux. And Ovince St. Preux edged out a close fight against Shogun Rua, and we did see a little bit of that old Ovince St. Preux that was low volume, wasn't really bringing the fight. He was sitting back counter-striking. Shogun was trying to blitz in, but 40-year-old Shogun doesn't really do it the same way that he used to. And it's funny because they were talking about on the broadcast how Shogun, when you talk about and think about all of his amazing knockouts and the people that he's demolished, I mean, let's just take a trip down memory lane really quickly. And if we want to look at some people that he's really put hands on, man, I mean, this dude has wins over Corey Anderson, Big Nog. He has wins over, Brandon Vera, Forrest Griffin. I mean, Lyoto Machida, Chuck Liddell, Mark Coleman, Alistair Overeem, Kevin Randleman, Alistair Overeem again, brother. Big Nog again. I mean, this dude has wins over the best of the best that there are to do it, right? He's fought the best of the best. He's fought the John Jones, the Dan Hendersons, Chael Sonnens. He already got knocked out by OSP before. We didn't really talk about that going into the preview because it was so long ago, back in 2014. But the point that we have here, AJ, is that, listen, bro, that was a long fucking time ago. We're talking about those big names. I mean, bro, we're talking about legitimately like 2006. You know what I mean? It's 2022, bro. This is just a different phase in the game. So clearly, this was a nostalgia fight, but I did cap it off by saying that I think that even though this has the makings to be exciting, this is probably going to be a boring old man fight, and it's kind of what it was. Do you have any thoughts that are different than that on this fight?
No, I mean, it was, you know what it was though, Derick, was the one thing that did catch me by surprise. It was somewhat of a middle ground. And when I saw OSP perform, I was predicting either we're going to see, the OSP that's going in there, dying on his shield, crazy, reckless, big power going in, or we're going to see that reserved, kind of calm OSP. We saw something a little bit in the middle, kind of back to the old days, good enough, so it was a little bit of more of an old man OSP in his what am I trying to say? Like prime performing, but a little bit older. I don't know. It was an interesting fight. A little bit snooze fest, but not really. You know, you can't really call this one like boring, but it was a fight.
Not gonna lie to you, man. I nodded off for about 2 minutes during this fight. Like that's how slow paced it was for me. Because even the Randy Brown versus Khaos Williams, which we'll talk about next, even though that was a fun fight, that actually was a fun fight. It was still a little bit of a snoozer too. It was very technical. So for this fight, what do you expect? OSP, he got the win. Did he get it by submission? No, but he got it by points. What did I say? OSP by points. And what was the points prop? Plus 300. So I hope you made your money, folks, because we gift wrapped that one to you. So I will just say that. I honestly, AJ, have nothing else to say on this fight other than it was an old man fight. OSP edged out a split decision. Shogun Rua actually looked very, very surprised. And actually, AJ, really quickly, since I have a plethora of photos at my disposal right now in my arsenal, I had a photo that I wanted you to comment on really quickly. So this is going to be a picture of OSP, right? So OSP, let's pull it, let's make it smaller. Look at Shogun Rua. Look at what his face is while his hand is raised. OSP's hand is raised. He's kind of looking at OSP like, you did not fucking win this fight, bro. Like, I won the fight. So it's good that he has that competitor in him, but given that Shogun Rua still says he wants to have about 2 more fights on his contract before he calls it quits, doesn't really seem like that's going to happen, man. You know what I mean? You've reached the pinnacle of your career, brother. This is probably it. What do you make of the photo, and then what do you make of this whole entire scenario?
Well, I mean, on the photo one, he's looking for almost like validation. You know, have you ever been there with a guy where you know, like, yeah, I won the fight, but I didn't win the fight, man. We kind of both have that mutual agreement. I think Shogun Rua looking for OSP to give him that look of like, yeah, I got one on you, man. You know, but OSP, he's not, man. He won. He ain't getting that from me. Shit, no way. And two, has Shogun Rua hit the pinnacle of his career? Unfortunately, I do think that's about this point, if not very, very close. I honestly don't even know if he has 2 fights in him, man. I hope those words go wrong and he does have the 2 fights or even plus, more fights in him. But it's rough to see unless he's done, a lot of favors for Uncle Dana in the past. I do somewhat kind of see the end, or at least, the tunnel starting to show up for Mauricio Shogun Rua, unfortunately, man, because one of the greatest fighters back in the day. But you do want to see these guys go out, with a little bit of honor, with a little bit of at least somewhat cognition in their brain still working. So, man, I hope we do see something good from Shogun coming forward. But unfortunately, I do think the best days are past him.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you right there, brother. But OSP, he gets a big-time win on the board. I mean, let's be honest, OSP probably needed this. If he would have lost this, that would have been an even worse look because he was coming off of a 2-fight losing streak where he got knocked out both times. So 2-3 in his last 5 wins over Alonzo Metafield and Shogun Rua. So shout out to OSP. And AJ, man, in this little technical war that we had right here, Randy Brown won a split decision, right? The rude boy. And I had said I was kind of favoring him, but I thought this was going to be close. And it was close, clearly a split decision. But AJ, man, I think this was the first time that we saw Khaos Williams really just kind of struggle in a fight, you know what I mean? Really just be frustrated and not know what to do because his power when he hits you is different. And he dropped Randy Brown. He had him in real trouble. But Randy Brown is too big, too long. He was hitting him where Khaos couldn't hit him back. And I think that Khaos Williams is going to learn a lot from this fight, man, because this was the moment. Get elevated to the main card, even though you were supposed to be a featured prelim. You could have knocked out or defeated one of those dudes who has been around for a long time, who a lot of people see a lot of potential in Randy Brown. You could have taken all that momentum, all that fame, all that popularity, and all that potential, and you could have put it on your own name. Instead, you got to go back to the drawing board, which is okay. What did you make of the fight?
Yeah, man, it was interesting because Khaos did struggle a lot, man. This was I thought this was a lot closer of a fight than a lot of other people I talked to about it, man. Where we did see Khaos struggle, but I think what you said is correct, Derek. Randy Brown was bigger, he was longer, but the one thing I noticed as well, he was faster. He was in there, he was getting his shots off before Khaos could even think about either what he's going to do against these strikes, or even see the strikes coming in and shoot up for his own strikes. So it was weird to see Khaos struggle with that, because he's usually the bulldog. He's usually the guy going in forward and kind of controlling the fight. But, man, Randy Brown was flowing, man. He was looking good in some of those. And it really, I mean, as close a fight as this one can be, I had it the same, Randy Brown, just by a slight margin for me. But good fight, man. A good one to open up, but a sad one that neither fighter was really able to capitalize on. So the big opportunity, It was such a close fight that no one really gained too much but they also didn't lose too much. So I guess it's the best of both worlds, kind of.
Yeah, it was kind of a wash, honestly. But Khaos Williams, there was one opening that I saw on Randy Brown that he kept doing time and time again. I'm like, you can't do this in an MMA fight. Randy Brown would jab, and then he would duck off to his right every time. Duck off to his right, duck off to his right. And his corner was even like, I think it was Dean Thomas. He was like, you need to throw that left high kick to get him to start thinking like, oh, I can't duck off over there. You know what I mean? Because if I do, he's going to catch me with that. He's going to be a little more paralyzed, a little more stationary. You're going to be able to open up your strikes a little bit more. The big thing, though, is Khaos Williams. It's not like he wasn't trying, bro. 246 attempted strikes. He was only able to land 96. So he got outstruck by Randy Brown, who landed 103 out of only 188. So Randy Brown was just clearly the more efficient dude. Khaos was trying, bro. He was swinging. He was just, I think the reach was a factor. Even though the reach was on 1 inch difference on paper, in the fight, it seemed like it was a ridiculous. I mean, the limbs of Randy Brown is just phenomenal. It's so long. This dude is like Dalsim from Street Fighter, where he's just hitting you from across the fucking thing, and you can't even do anything about it. But either way, the experience, I think, played a factor. The length, the frame of Rude Boy Randy Brown. I mean, he got another one, and I'm not going to lie to you, man, when he was talking to Uncle Dana after, talking about like, oh, Dana, I've been around since Dana White's looking for a fight. I'm growing, da-da-da-da-da. Dana seemed like he wasn't really too pleased with how the fight went down. Maybe he didn't think he won. I don't know. But in terms of a wash, yeah, man, I think nobody's stock grew. Nobody lost. This was a good fight. My last question before we move on to a little bit of a prelim pour-over. AJ, man, do you think that Khaos Williams, I mean, what is the potential for him? You know what I mean? Like, where do you see him going? Especially rebounding from this loss, he's going to have to make up ground to get back to where he was today. So where do you see the cap being for Khaos Williams, who I think has a lot of potential in this fight game?
Yeah, I agree with you. He still has a lot of potential, man. It really depends on how he bounces back from this fight, because Randy Brown is one of those 170ers that you're going to see him again. If Khaos Williams wants to advance in the 170-pound division, he's either going to see Randy Brown again or somebody just like Randy Brown, man. And I'm pulling up the top 15 right now just to see, because there's a lot of those strikers in there, man. You want to get up to the top. You got the Leon Edwards, these dudes that can wrestle as well as they're long and lengthy. There's a lot of ones that hit hard, man. Even if you go all the way down to like Stephen Thompson, these dudes are strict, man, or slick and move fast and have long length. So how far can Khaos Williams go? If he learns well from this and learns how to beat a fighter like Randy Brown, I think he can go real far, man. I'm saying, top 10 right now, at least if he gets better than this in the highest. Maybe there's a little bit higher than that, but I can see a nice top 10 if this dude really comes back. What about you?
Well, I'm not going to be too optimistic here, but I'm going to play the safe bet. I do think that Khaos Williams will absolutely be a top 15 fighter. I'll just leave it at that. I think he will absolutely be a top 15 fighter. He's number 23 right now in Tapology rankings, but I think that he will solidify his place in that top 15 as a dude who is like, if you're top 15, if you're top 10, top 15 in your division, you're arguably a master at your sport. So I think Khaos Williams, he's up there. He just got just little adjustments. That's it. So that is your main card, folks. And now it's time for a little bit of a prelim pour over. So AJ, brother, I mean, let's talk about the big ones, man. Brandon Royval versus Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell was on the brink of having the greatest performance we have seen of his career. This dude had Brandon Royval. He dropped him. He had him in a deep guillotine attempt. He tried to switch it over to a Darce. He got reversed, and then he got guillotined, and the fight was over. That's literally what happened. Like, there was no ifs, ands, or buts. There was no mix him up. There was no let's stand and bang. That's how it happened. And Brandon Royval now becomes the dude who, I mean, listen, bro, he's won what? I think fucking, I don't even know. I had the number in my head, but he's won a decent amount of his UFC fights, brother. He's over here. He's finishing a lot of these fights. I think he's only won one of his UFC fights by decision, and he's clamoring to get a UFC title shot, man, in the flyweight division. He says, Kai France, I had him shooting for his life. Brandon Moreno, you're lucky that my shoulder popped out. Like, he's taking shots, man. He wants the smoke. So with that being said, Brandon Royval wants it this bad. I mean, do you think this is a dude who could be competing for a title? We were saying that when he first came into the UFC, he was on that hot run after he beat Kai France and all that. But I mean, what do you think?
Man, I was clamoring for that, and I still think he can, man, because I agree. If the shoulder didn't come out and he's back in that fight, you start feeling loose, feeling a little limber, man. At this point, he's 5-7. He gets that fight back, 6 of 7 with the one, he had a rear naked choke against Pantoja, but Pantoja's killer, man. And if he's up there, that top 5, I think that's a great spot for Royval, man. I like Royval a lot, and I think Raw Dog's coming back, bro. It's going to be fun to see him.
Yeah, man, it is tough because he had some really tough losses when he had a lot of momentum, but he's showing that he's a fun fighter, and you got to have him on pay-per-view cards. That's basically what it is. But it was a short fight, 2 minutes and 14 seconds of the first round. Royval gets the guillotine. That guillotine was tight too, man. It was just a thing of beauty. So I will leave that at that. And we could talk about another fun one, man. Andre Fialho versus Cameron Van Camp. Now, this is a dude who has an iron chin, who is known for knocking people out, but he got wobbled, brother. Easy. In the first round by Cameron Van Camp, he got wobbled. Legs on Queer Street. He was like, oh, shoot, okay, what are we doing? Got himself together, threw that left hook, missed it. Was like, okay, this dude's going to leave himself open. Let me land it. Boom. Let me hit it one more time. Put the man to sleep. Cameron Van Camp didn't even do any grappling, man. It was a purely striking affair. And why would you want to just do a pure striking affair against Andre Fialho? It's because you get overconfident by rocking him a little bit and you pay the price. Similar to Justin Gaethje, Charles Oliveira? Maybe. But I will ultimately say Andre Fialho is a man to be reckoned with. 2 knockout wins in a row, and then he says, hey, Dana, I want to fight in Singapore. Book me a fight now. Dana says, I love that shit. Let's get it. Matchmakers don't want to do it, but let's get it. And I think Andre Fialho, who was pretty hyped up coming into the UFC, making his debut, man, I think he's going to give a lot of people a run for their money. What do you think?
Yeah, you know exactly what I think of when I see Fialho, man, a sleeper. He's going to be one of the ones we're talking about now. Uncle Chael's going to be talking about in 2 months, man. I'm calling it right now, guaranteed. Fialho, he keeps getting these knockout streaks, man. We're going to be seeing him big and bigger things coming, man. This dude has some serious power. And what you mentioned exactly about the knockout, seeing that left hook, oh, I missed. Okay, I'm going to set it up again. I'm going to fake that right, get him to move a little bit, come across that big left. Bang. Yeah, dude, he has the brains to see that in the fight. Beautiful, man. We're going to see a lot of Fialho, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, but he's a very experienced fighter. I mean, look, what he's 16-4 in his MMA career. What is he now? Maybe 2-1 in the UFC. He loses the short notice debut to Michel Paeta, but ever since he's had a full camp, he's been sleeping people. Goes to show you how good Michel Paeta is too at the same time. But listen, brother, I mean, that was fun. And that was probably, he got a performance of the night bonus, by the way, because of how, incredible that was. So did Brandon Royval. Matt Schnell got fight of the night, but the other performance bonus was Michael Chandler, of course, punting a dude's head into the bleachers. What are we talking about? Tracy Cortez, brother, she has been on a 13-month layoff, and she fought someone who we both thought was a live dog in Melissa Gatto. And was Melissa Gatto a live dog? I mean, almost, right? She put a very formidable fight, but she lost that third round. She won the second clearly, lost one, and lost round 3. I thought it was a good fight, though, man. The only problem, though, and I understand it, is because you have a wrestler in Cortez versus a jiu-jitsu practitioner in Gatto, and sometimes the jiu-jitsu person, even though you're doing a bunch of submission attempts and all that, you get too comfortable playing in your guard. It's the gift and curse of having a good guard, excuse me. So you just stay on your back and you think, okay, I'm going to catch an armbar eventually. I'm going to catch a knee bar. I'm going to catch you in a triangle. I'm going to catch you in something. It never ends up happening, and you lose the fight. Why? Because optically, you're on your back the entire fight. Cortez is winning. She's doing a little more damage, taking you down more. Even though if you're comfortable being on your back, it doesn't matter. This is MMA, not jiu-jitsu. This was Melissa Gatto's first loss of her career, but I think it's more impressive the way that Tracy Cortez was able to dig down deep and win that third round. What do you make of the layoff right now? Because she's back. She had a little injury. She had to pull out of a fight, but now she's back. Tracy Cortez still undefeated in the UFC. I think she's like 4-0 now. I mean, what are you making of it, brother?
Still undefeated, forgotten about, but put back on the stage, man. Her hips, like the power she had in those transitions to be able to dig deep and get the resilience, bro. Very, very impressive, man. That was, it was, you want to see somebody kind of have that technical stuff where she's seeing that, like, not necessarily a full step ahead, 2 steps ahead, like a real practitioner, but somebody who's digging deep and fighting for it because she knows what to do. That was Tracy Cortez. It was good to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you as well, man. She's 10-1 in her MMA career, and I'll just say this, man. I keep underestimating her, and she keeps showing out. And I think partially that has to do with Brian Ortega being in that corner, man. That whole entire T-City vibe that you're getting, especially when you get to practice your jiu-jitsu defense on Brian Ortega, who is one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in the entire UFC, probably MMA in general. Maybe not MMA in general, but, I mean, he's sick with the triangle. I'll just say that. Listen, man, it was a fun fight. Shout out to Tracy Cortez. AJ had a couple of upsets on our hands. Not necessarily upsets, but fights that we thought might have gone one way, kind of went the other. Cledson Rodriguez, my sleeper. This was kind of a banger, a low-key flyweight banger against TJ Vergara, right? Cledson Rodriguez gets it put to him, brother. I mean, funnest fighter you can watch in terms of striking and all that, but when it came down to the wrestling, Vergara just did just enough, man. He won a split decision just enough to edge out the fight. But I will say, Cledson Rodriguez, I hope you saw a little glimpse of what I was talking about. This dude is the future. I really believe so. But it goes to show also how impressive CJ Vergara was. I only want the takeaway from Cledson Rodriguez, though, AJ. Like, did you see kind of that star in the making? Those flashy attacks, man. The relentless move forward. I'm going to crack you even if I have to take a couple myself. Did you see some of that?
The relentless attacks, the Muay Thai style of exactly that. I'm gonna say a little light foot. I'm gonna let you get a crack off, but I'm coming back even harder. I see the exact same thing you see, Derek. This is gonna be a star in the making, especially after this loss to CJ Vergara. Man, he learns a little something. He learns, I gotta defend these certain takedowns. I gotta be a little bit better here. The X, Y, and Z. So all of that with a good camp behind him. I see Kledson, man, CR doing good things out there, or KR, excuse me. Yeah, man. No, I was impressed. I was with you. I was a little sad, as a striker, a little bit more than the rest. I was a little sad that CJ won. I can see why, because he did just, like you said, eked out just enough to get a win. Showed a little bit of that veteran experience, but I was a little bit more impressed with Rodriguez than I was the whole fight. I was happy with the fight, but I was more impressed with Rodriguez.
Absolutely, man. So shout out. I mean, listen, we have just more and more talent coming into that 125-pound division. I'll just say that. Journey Newson, though, man, when we're talking about, he's a 135er, not 125, but Journey Newson, brother, he got the big win on Fernie Garcia. And this was one that I told you, Fernie Garcia, everyone's saying that's the guy. That's the next guy. And Journey Newson said, y'all must have forgot, bro. Like, what? Lest we forget, right? Journey Newson, in his UFC debut, he fights who? Let's see. Ricardo Ramos loses a decision. He fights Domingo Pilarte. That was a no contest. He fights Randy Costa. He gets knocked out. Then you fight Fernie Garcia, and you finally get one on the board. This is a dude, he's been here. He's ready to make his mark. He finally got the opponent to do it against a dude making his UFC debut. So he outstruck him 63-38, man. Landed 2 of 3 takedowns. He just did what he needed to do to win. So shout out to him. My question to you, though, is given that he has racked up those losses, you have to win every fight out from here on out. You win with this one, and then you drop another one, and then you win, and then you drop another one. You're probably going to be out of the UFC. Do you think he'll stick around for another contract in the UFC?
Yeah, because he is up and down, man. That no contest on Domingo Pilarte was a win originally. He just got popped for MJ. So he does. I mean, he has that very up and down, man. And if you've been paying attention to the cut report, man, you can't be an up and down. We cannot be an up and down fighter in the UFC. You have a very short term here. I think he needs to go on a streak, man. We need to see 3 of them for him. 3-4 fights, and then we'll be able to see a little bit more of Journey Newsom.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So last couple of ones that I want to talk about, and I'm going to give you a spoiler alert right now. My fighter of the night is going to be this next fighter that we're talking about, Lupi Godinez, brother. Come on, man. I feel like this is the next killer in the 115-pound division. Similar to what you were saying, like, oh, watch, in a couple months, Uncle Chael, he's going to be talking about Andre Fialho. I think that Lupi Godinez, at this point, like, she has solidified herself. She is going to be the next star in the UFC, where you're like, oh, remember that Rose fight? Remember that Oliveira fight? Oh, do you remember that fighter who was fighting on the early prelims of those cards? Oh, yeah, that's going to be the future champion. That's her, man. I think Lupi Godinez has it, brother. Her wrestling is phenomenal. Going into this, even though I mistook Ariane Canalosi for, Cachoeira. Yeah, even though I mistook her for that person, brother, her frame was still phenomenal. She was still jacked and stacked in the whole 9. Lupi Godinez said, that's child's play. I'm going to do whatever I want to you. I'm going to be faster. I'm going to be more technical. My strength is going to be different. I'm going to ragdoll you. I'm going to put you in uncomfortable spots, and that's exactly what she did. Ariane Canalosi held basically no chance. When we're talking about strikes, I mean, Lupi Godinez, 130 total strikes, 23 for Carnelossi. Significant strikes, 46, 9 for Carnelossi, man. Lupi Godinez landed 8 of 8 takedowns, 13 minutes and 26 seconds of control time. And I actually had written down, I don't remember, I wrote down a whole bunch of notes, and I don't know where any of them went, but I do know that Lupi Godinez, she did land multiple, at least 2 or more takedowns in every single one of her UFC fights thus far. Her wrestling is phenomenal, brother. I mean, she's something else, and she's going to be my fighter of the night. Clearly, you can already hear what I'm saying in this, man, but how beautiful of a performance was it? Like, how big of a star in the making is Lupi Godinez?
Man, very impressive. And if I'm mistaken, correct me, but I'm pretty sure her UFC debut was a weight class up. She took a late notice fight and still was able to get 2 or more takedowns, because it is something like that, man. Lupi Godinez's wrestling is absolutely insane, and we saw it on full display. And nonetheless, is her wrestling insane? Her cardio, her mental game, man. She stays strong in there. She stays confident in there. She's a really good fighter, and we've been covering her. I don't remember if it was my sleeper or if it was Derick's sleeper. It was one of ours, but we've been talking about Lupi for a while, and then she's another one that you really got to watch out for, man. Sleeper in the in the casual's eyes, but this girl is snatching necks, snatching arms, taking decisions. The judges are going home with her. It's a bad way to say that one. Pause for a second, but Either way, man, Godinez, is a really good fighter, man. And I'm excited to see how she grows and how they build her. Because if we've known anything about the UFC, they like to, when they see these kind of fighters and they see the potential they have, they like to build a career for them, get them going in the right path, and not necessarily give them cans to fight because there's no cans in the UFC, but they do like to see styles that can make exciting fights to bring more crowd in. And that's exactly what I'm excited for Lupi, man. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. What you think, Derick?
Well, just to correct that stat, it wasn't her UFC debut, but remember, she had fought Silvana Gomez Juarez on October 9th last year. And then 5 days later, on October 16th, or maybe 7 days later, she says, I'll step in, I'll fight Luana Carolina. She lost the fight via a unanimous decision, man, but she was able to land a couple takedowns in that fight.
But that was the fastest turnaround in UFC record, right?
In the history. No, that was faster.
In history.
That was faster
Speaks to it, yeah.
Faster than Chimaev, because Chimaev had a 10-day turnaround, right? So I found my notes, believe it or not. Landed 3, and this is all of her fights. It's gone in this order. 3 takedowns, 5 takedowns, 2 takedowns, 5 takedowns, 8 takedowns. Every single fight, man, she's handing it to these ladies.
So she had 5 takedowns in the one that she went up a weight class after 7 days, man. Even speaks.
That was 2 takedowns because she fought 8. It was 8 versus.
I thought it 3 and 5. Scratch that. Never mind.
8 versus Carnelossi, 5 versus Luke Boonmi, 2 versus Carolina, 5 versus Gomez Juarez, and then 3 versus Jessica Penne, and she lost that fight too. But either way, Lupi Godinez is the real deal, brother. I don't have anything else to say, but just watch out for her. She's going to be the next great Mexican fighter next to Alexa Grasso, because we don't really have too many. I mean, Tracy Cortez as well. Let's count that, but you know what I mean. All right, AJ. Last thing that I want to mention, Blagoy Ivanov. Don't sleep on my man. I mean, bro, he's timeless. His boxing is just too sharp. I don't even know what to say, but this man just takes damage, eats it on the chin like it's nobody's business, and keeps it pushing. Macy Chiasson got a big win against Norma Dumont, who I feel like was asleep for the first 2 rounds of the fight and then woke up, and then we saw the Norma Dumont we're used to seeing. Either way, Macy Chiasson, man, I mean, big win, huge win. The timeless, the ageless Francisco Trinaldo got a big win over Danny Roberts, where he hurt the man on multiple occasions. He 30-27, 30-26, and 29-28 in him. Don't sleep on, Francisco Trinaldo. He has a fun nickname. I forgot what it was, but either way. And AJ, brother, that was your prelim pour-over. There was so many fights, man. Look at that. We were so far into the show. We need to move on to the next segment. That was a lot of fights. I hope you enjoyed it, folks. We put a lot of work. We watched every single one, broke it down, analyzed it, the whole entire 9. And then I wanted to get a quick solo on my man AJ, because look at Sasha Bear in the back chilling. Beautiful. You love to see it. All right, brother. So with that being said, let's move on to some rankings review. Let's get it. And this time around, I think that we need to take a quick jump into that coveted division. The flyweights, brother, the 125 pounders. So without any further ado, why don't we get into it? So right now, I'm going to be pulling up the UFC rankings in its totality, but of course, we're going to focus in on the flyweight division. Now, when we move this on over, what we will see is hold on. We're almost there. There we go. Okay. Brandon Royval, he entered this fight at number 6 in the men's flyweight division, 125 pounds. Above him, in the UFC official rankings, you have Alex Perez, Alexandre Pantoja, Askar Askarov, Kai Kara France, Brandon Moreno, and of course the champion, Davison Figueiredo. Now, in my rankings, I have Brandon Royval at number 6. Okay, so we all have him at number 6. So actually, when we're looking at the top 5, top 6, it's not quite the same, but we're pretty much there in consensus, right? So my question to you...
Yeah, there's a couple moves between Pantoja and Askarov and Kara France are right in there, but we got basically the same 1 through 5. They're all the same people, just not in the same order.
Absolutely. So let's talk about it, though. Brandon Royval, number 6, right? And he just beats a dude in Matt Schnell, who UFC has him at number 9. I have him at number 9, and you have him at number 8, right? So even though it's a huge win, this is a big guillotine finish. You love to see it. Does it propel you up the rankings like that? Do you get a title shot after beating number 9? No, of course you don't, right? No, not at all. Sorry. That was such a no that I didn't think you required to respond. Yeah, absolutely. No, you don't need it. You don't need it whatsoever. But you do need to fight maybe 1, maybe 2 more to get back into those conversations. So when we're talking about it, you have Brandon Moreno. He already fought him. He lost. Kai Kara France, he got the big win. That's important. Askar Askarov. Now, that's somebody who's interesting. We might be able to fight. Alexandre Pantoja. Maybe Alex Perez is the odd dog out for all of those guys. But I wanted to ask you, man, in terms of these fighters, who do you think he could beat out of all of these fighters? Brandon Moreno, Kai Kara France, Askar Askarov, Alexandre Pantoja, and Alex Perez. Which one of those are winnable fights for Brandon Royval?
Man, I think it has to be the Alex Perez. That's the one that gives me the most, especially because, I mean, he beat Kai Kara France, But that's a hard scrap right there. That's a hard one. And I think that one's a lot closer to 50-50. Either one of those guys can win at any part of the day, especially in Royval's current, career area. Pantoja, he's dropped one on, so I don't know if he can get that one back. I would like to see the Askarov fight because I think that's pushing him a little bit closer to the title faster.
Yeah.
But if I want to, if I'm looking to push him to one that we can win, I think that Alex Perez is the best, at least of those, because those are all killers right there. Who do you think?
Well, honestly, man, I don't know if he can beat any of these guys. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but I am saying if you look at his wins against Tim Elliott, Kai Kara France, Rogerio Bontorin, and Matt Schnell. Now, you can argue that the Bontorin one was that was a split decision. Yeah, so that was a split decision. You can argue that one a little bit, right? I still think the right man won either way. The Kai Kara France one, now he submitted him. It was straight up right there. He submitted Tim Elliott, all those guys. But when you fight Brandon Moreno, yeah, your shoulder popped out. Is it a real KO? No. He just wasn't able to fight anymore. You get it. It happens, right? As Alexandre Pantoja, the man got submitted in the second round. It was what it was. It was a clean submission. So Askar Askarov, with the legit wrestling that the man has, I mean, you saw how close of a fight it was against Askar Askarov and Kai Kara France. You saw when Askarov put the backpack on Kara France. It was, not everybody can get away from that stuff, right? Brandon Moreno, if he rematched him, what do you think could happen?
Oh, man, especially because Brandon Moreno is really good at what at the wrestling, man, at what he does, and staying in the striking. I guess it depends on what Brandon Moreno we see, because some could argue that Royval's striking is a little bit better, a little bit more fluid. He's a little bit longer, so he could stay at range, maybe a little bit better at kicking. We'll see, because Brandon Moreno he is that weird, awkward elusivity to how he fights. I think that's a hard fight, man. I think Brandon Moreno is kind of the one that even skipped my mind. I actually forgot they fought, for a second until you said it. That's still a very interesting fight with how he does it, man.
Yeah, I will just say this, man. Given the nature that Matt Schnell was able to kind of dominate that first round up until he lost, you know what I mean? He was putting it on him. It doesn't bode well for some of these top 4, top 5 fighters. Alex Perez might be the best bet. No disrespect whatsoever, but it'll be an interesting test. I'll just say that. He's fun, but we need to see a little bit more. I'll just leave it at that. And with that being said, AJ, I think it's time we move on to the fighter of the night. Let's get it.
Right now, there is not a man in this planet that can stop me inside this octagon.
The celebration is more work than the fight.
Fighter of the night.
Okay, brother. So clearly I gave a spoiler alert as to who my fighter of the night was. So if you don't mind, let me just knock it out the park real fast. Let me just give the photo for the folks, for the sake of the segment, the gist on Lupita Godinez, man. So Lupita Godinez, this ridiculous strawweight right here, man. She's not fun just for one reason. She's not fun because she's relentless. She's not fun because she just has the tenacity that it takes to be able to really put somebody away in nasty fashion. But she has the tenacity, and when I say put them away, I don't necessarily mean finish them, but I mean break their spirit and their will, which is what she's been doing in basically every single fight. But she's game. We talked about her she has the shortest turnaround in UFC history in like 7 days, right? When she fought Silvana Gomez Juarez and Luana Carolina, up a weight class, no big deal, right? But Lupita Godinez at all of 5'2", 61-inch reach, she is a flyweight who I think is going to give people problems because of that reckless, abandoned, walk-forward style. You get her on her back, it's okay. She's going to reverse you. She's going to do whatever she can to reverse a position, always stay busy, always be active. And when you look at the wins that she has, man, Silvana Gomez Juarez, Loma Luke Bunmi, Ariana Carnelossi. Does that mean that she's ready for the top 15? No, absolutely not. But if you really look at it in the grand scheme of things, split decision loss to Jessica Penne. Do we know how good Jessica Penne is, folks? If you don't know your homework, or you haven't done your homework, or you don't know your history, Jessica Penne has been a staple in the division for a long time. You lose to Luana Carolina. Now that one was a little like, okay, look at who you lost to. You know what I mean? This isn't one of the greatest fighters in the division, but it was a challenge, a week turnaround after you just fought. Listen, man, this is the point that I'm saying here is that Lupita Godinez is one of those fighters that everybody wants to have on their roster. Like, this is your favorite fighter's favorite fighter due to the ferocity, due to the tenacity, due to the David Goggins-esque mentality of her, man. She's a good talker too. A short little Mexican fighter who is ready to get it, has that indomitable will and spirit. All I can say is that not only is she my fighter of the night, out of all of the great fights that we had, maybe I should take that back. Maybe not great. All the fights that we had at UFC 274, Lupita Godinez's performance stood out absolutely the most to me. She only has 2 finishes in her 8-2 career, but I think that we're going to see more in the near future, especially if she's able to just TKO people by just putting it on them, man. 130 strikes to 30, brother. Come on. What are we talking about? And we're talking about an Ariana Carnelossi who she did it over, who was jack stacked and maxed out, man. I mean, listen, if a small fighter can do that to a big fighter, it goes to show showed that small fighter is a game fighter. And with that being said, Lupi Godinez, you are my fighter of the night. Now, AJ, brother, I left the table open for you. You have a lot of places to go here. You can go with any plethora of fighters that we have, but I'm interested to know who stood out the most to you, brother. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, Derek, there's a lot. And I actually really like the Loopy pick, man. I like the fact of the mindset, man. You know, I'm a big preacher of the mindset on this one. And there's a lot, man, whether you want to go Fialho with the knockouts he's doing, Francisco Trinaldo with how, you know, the old school vet mentality, man. There's always that play. This one is actually pretty hard for me, man. There's some things I like, you know, about Charles Oliveira with how he's going, all the chips stacked against him. But I'm going with Iron Mike, man. I'm going with Michael Chandler as my fight of the night, specifically because of seizing opportunity. There's a saying, I don't know, a man much smarter than me said it. I don't know who it was, but he said the harder I work, the luckier I get. You know, the more work I put in, the more opportunities are presented to me. And because I stayed ready, I'm able to seize those opportunities as they come, you know, as they pop up, because, you know, some people call that luck. Some people call it good grace, whatever it is. Michael Chandler knows exactly when to seize it, even in down times, taking the shots, you know, getting hurt, coming back, you know, you say all this stuff, having the presence of mind to, one, bring his family in because he loves them and he's shouting out, you know, where's my son? And at the end of the fight, letting everybody know that he's a family man. You know, he's an American. He's coming back, drawing in a bigger crowd to the UFC, knowing his place and how to achieve that, and then calls out Conor McGregor at the end, taking his shot, man, controlling his future. And I like that almost as much as I like having that mindset of that I'm going to be that old school knuckle dragger, you know, grinding out all the time, never distraught, never fear, I forget the word, whatever it is. Either way, Michael Chandler, man, the fact that he's able to stay mentally strong and seize the opportunities when they come, and because he's a hard worker and because he's a grinder, because of all these things, that's why he's my fighter of the night, man. And it was hard because there's a lot of other fighters out there that did really good and performed really, very, very well and had the stories of that. But I like the Michael Chandler story of coming in, not being liked by the entire, you know, back, you know, in the locker room, most of the guys coming in, you know, you're coming in from Bellator. Coming in going to be, you know, Uncle Dana White, you know, his favorite fighter. You have the Dana White privilege. People don't really like you, especially as fighters. We're a little bit more prone to not like the guy that's following all the rules, not like the guy that's a teacher's pet, you know, not like to that guy. But that guy, he ended up being a cool guy. And in my book, you know, I like him. So for all those reasons, I'll end the long-winded thing of saying Michael Chandler is my fighter of the night. Performed very well, seizes moments. What do you think?
In terms of explosiveness, I think Chandler was the right pick. I mean, there's no way you can't give him some form of bonus, even if it is our just verbal bonus right here for Fighter of the Night for Michael Chandler. You punt a man's face into the bleachers, brother. There's nothing you can take away from him. I'm sorry that I keep repeating myself here, but it's just so phenomenal the way that he went about it. So with that being said, folks, that is your Fighter of the Night. If you like this segment, drop a like, subscribe, and share the show with your friends. Why not? Now, AJ, last piece of business. Word on the street. Brother, let's talk about it real quickly. Don't got much to say, but you remember this weekend we had a lot of fights, right? We had the PFL. Kayla Harrison barely squeaks by. Not really squeaks by, but you know what I mean? She gets the win, unanimous decision nod against Moktarina or whatever her name was. Either way, goes to show, I mean, dominant by Kayla Harrison. However, there was a lack of dominance in one aspect of professional sports, combat sports specifically, this weekend that a lot of people are surprised by. Am I the most surprised by it? No, not really. When I was asked about this offline in the real world, right, when people were like, hey, bro, what do you think about this Canelo fight coming up? He's about to fight this dude, you know what I mean? He's probably about to just knock him out, right? And I was like, maybe. I don't know. I mean, listen, bro, you can only go up so many weight classes and be able to, like, your power only translates so far. Your skill only translates so far. Look at Israel Adesanya versus Jan Blachowicz, right? Baddest middleweight that we got on the planet right now. You go up to 205, different story, brother. Those are some big boys right there. Canelo, he fights Dimitri Bivol, right? This dude is undefeated, light heavyweight champion. Goes up, tries to fight him. He loses 115, 113 unanimous decision, man. Am I surprised? No. My question to you, the reason why I even brought this up in the first place is, one, no man is perfect. No man is unbeatable. Everybody is beatable. I don't care who you are. Khabib himself, even if you would have took the right matchups, you probably could have got beat. But for Canelo Alvarez, the question is, do you think that ambition got the best of him on this one? Do you think that his goals, his mindset, that Goggins mindset of I'm gonna just keep getting bigger, badder, I'm gonna keep climbing the mountain, I'm gonna take the biggest tests, and if it, if you don't risk it, you don't get the biscuit, right? Do you think that went to his detriment, given that this is his only other loss since fighting Floyd Mayweather so many years ago, brother? What do you think?
I think it's only to his detriment on how he handles himself after the loss. You know what I mean, Derek? Like, if he's able to come back and say, no, I'm going to stick him with this. I'm going to get this guy. I'm going back at it, whatever. Whether he fights him again, whether he fights somebody else, and he still stays with that positive mindset, then, I think it's a pro. But if he lets it get to him, it doesn't handle it well, that'd be an interesting thing to see, because I see Canelo as more of that strong-minded fighter when he goes in there, but he does get emotional, man. We've seen him get emotional a couple times. I think he bounces back. He's a great one. He's a good one. We'll see how he does play out. What do you think? Is this going to be one of the ones, a nail in the coffin in the Canelo coffin? Excuse me.
Brother, if I hear one person say, "Oh, Canelo's falling off," if I hear one fucking person even whisper it under their breath, you got to get smacked, bro. Canelo Alvarez. This dude's trying to do some Roy Jones hype right here. It's like, I want to fight heavyweights. I don't care. I'm that game. Canelo's the baddest man in the boxing world right now. Let's move on. I don't even have anything else to say. I can't even entertain the disrespect. AJ, our boy, Cowboy Cerrone. Man, we talked food poisoning earlier, had to pull out at the last second against Joe Lauzon. I was actually excited to see the fight, but, it didn't happen. It is what it is. Will it get rescheduled? I actually don't think this will get rescheduled. I think this might be it for this matchup. However, Cowboy more or less said via Instagram post that he wants to make it to 50 Zuffa fights in its totality. He said he's about 48 right now, and he's trying to make it to 50. So with that being said, he insinuated he has 2 fights left in him. Now that we're seeing the end of Cowboy, this hits a scary end, brother, because this is the last of the Mohicans right there. This is the last of them to do it. You know what I mean? Like, where do we go? If Cowboy goes, Shogun, you got to go. You know what I mean? All these old-timers, if Cowboy goes, everybody got to go. Are we ushering in a new generation, a new era of Zuffa, of UFC, if Cowboy Cerrone leaves the promotion?
Man, I think you have to. Like, you can't. Like, it's one of those pinnacle times in a business's career, and in a lifetime. That's kind of how it has to happen, man.
Yeah.
Father Time is undefeated. We say all the time. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to see the end of Cowboy. I'm hoping for 2 more fights, man. I'm hoping for no more fish tacos either.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, why are you eating tacos from a random Arizona, taco shop the night before your fight? I thought that was a little questionable myself, but either way, I don't think Cowboy Cerrone is a man of excuses, given that he has 48 fights, and I think he has never pulled out of one single fight, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe a weight cut issue, maybe something here or there, but never like, I just pull out, you know what I mean? In other news, Dan Hooker, right, to the Hangman, he is returning to lightweight. He says he's put a fork in fighting at 145 pounds. So he basically pulled a Cody Garbrandt and was like, I'm going to go down weight, I'm going to be revitalized, I'm going to do this. The only difference was Dan Hooker actually had legitimate fights at 145. It's not like he didn't. He was winning, he was losing. I think he had a 500 record at 145. Basically, he says, I'm too old for this shit. I'm not doing it. It was too hard for me to make the weight. I couldn't make the weight if I wanted to. Staying at 155. Where does Hangman go? You know what I mean? He's this killer. He's fought a killer's row. Where is he, a top 15? You know what I mean? Is he like a perennial top 15 guy? Is he truly a top 10 guy at 155? What do you make of it?
Yeah, man, not everybody can beat Jose Aldo, but I think I think there's 2 clear paths for the Hangman, bro. Yeah. Either you're going to stay around, you're going to be a gatekeeper in the 155-pound class, or you try your luck and bump up, because he is a taller guy. After he had his 6'1", 6'2", whatever he is, he is a very tall guy for the division. Maybe he puts on a little bit more weight, finds a little bit more power, gets a little bit sturdier of a chin on him, and then we really see the resurgence of the Hangman Hooker. But I don't know, man. I think he might do better as the gatekeeper 155. Yeah, I wouldn't want to see him getting knocked out at 170 as well as 145 and 155. What about you?
Well, it's funny because I think Dan Hooker would be one of those few fighters who would really benefit from a 165-pound division. I think he'd be one of those fighters. So who's to say in the near-ish future he doesn't make a move on over to Eagle FC and fight at 165? They actually have a division there. Who's to say? I hope not. I hope he sticks around the UFC. He's such a fun fighter. He's a real killer, man. He's fought a killer's row, but I'm just going to leave that for what it is. Now, AJ, last piece of business that I have before we move on. UFC is finalizing Cerrone versus Tai Tuivasa heavyweight bout for September 3rd. Now, this is the inevitable. This is 2 hype trains where you're like, you don't want either guy to lose. The company doesn't want either guy to lose. Cerrone is the one coming off a loss against the champion, Francis Ngannou. But can you be surprised? This is Francis Ngannou. What are we talking about, right? The former interim champion, Cerrone. Tai Tuivasa, fun style, right? He got the better of our man Derek Lewis in his last one, but he faced a little bit of controversy himself. I'm not going to lie to you. My early prediction, because I'm going to give it out there because I'm a bold man, I think Cerrone dances circles around Tai Tuivasa and edges him out in a clear 5-round decision victory. That's how I see it going. Do you agree with me? Do you see it another way? What are you thinking?
I was hoping we're not going to have a boring fight, man. And we're not going to have a Rose Esparza. And I think we won't, because Tai Tuivasa will be able to engage a little bit more. He's not going to be willing to take the booze. But his dance partner, Cerrone, he's going to be bouncing around. He's going to be on the outside. He's not going to want to get cracked by that big bam power and then wake up to a dude drinking a shoey. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the fight, but I'm also a little bit nervous for the fight. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want it to be boring.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a potential he does what he did to Derek Lewis, or there's a potential Tuivasa just catches him and knocks him out. But we haven't seen anything remotely near that, even in the Ngannou fight, and Ngannou couldn't do it. So who's to say Tuivasa could do it? Who's to say Lewis could do it? I'm just going to say that fight is being finalized. Should be a fun one for the upper class of the heavyweight division. And with that being said, folks, that is your word on the street. Now, AJ, brother, this is the outro, and we have a fight that we need to be looking forward to next week. This is one that has been in the making for quite some time. Jan Blachowicz, the former light heavyweight champion, versus Alexander Rakic, who, I'm not going to lie, he has put up a few snoozers in his last few fights, brother. So watching film might be a little excruciating this week, but that's neither here nor there. It's going to be a fun kickboxing fight. Let's see if Blachowicz decides he wants to wrestle a little bit. But the card should be interesting, brother. Overall, in its totality, the card should be interesting. Now, the last word that I have on this that I forgot to mention when we were talking about Justin Gaethje, and by this time, folks, if you're still around sticking with us, I appreciate you, and you're gonna get this little nugget. But the thing that I thought spelled the end of Justin Gaethje in that fight is that he seemed to have clipped Oliveira a couple times, right? And he had told everybody else, the problem people have is they hurt Charles and then they just jump in. And I was like, yeah, you're totally right. He hurt Charles, and I think that he got a little overzealous with the power, saying if I land one good one, I'm gonna put him out and I'm just gonna end this night. And he started winging his shots. Nothing was set up anymore. Everything was big power shots. He was literally falling over himself trying to throw big haymakers, right? That, like I'm saying, throwing it from his hip, you know what I mean? When you firing from the hip, I mean, that's a little bit different, right? So I think that Charles Oliveira, the thing is, he's tight at all times, you know what I mean? He's always tight, always in his game, front kicks, elbows, you know, straight shots down the pipe. When Justin Oliveira started overextending himself, that's when he got caught. With that right hand, dropped him, got rear naked choked. Do you see any of that in this explanation as to why Gaethje got put out in the first round the way that he did, or do you think I'm reaching there?
No, I can see it because he didn't necessarily see red and jump in and jump into the guard. He saw red and then saw, okay, this is how I stalk to get my kill. Like I'm gonna stay up a little bit, play with him a little bit, do my thing. But then he got solely focused on attacking when he needed to focus a little bit on the defense. I'm right there with you. I could see that a little bit as well.
And he also said, in my last fight, it was the first in his fight against Khabib is the one he's talked about. He was like, in the last fight that he had against Khabib, he was the only fight that he had where he was tentative and he was kind of reacting, staying back, right? And he said, I will never do that again. He kind of did that in this fight, bro. So I don't know, man. Justin Gaethje has some things to evaluate, but overall, in the totality of the card, this was a fun card for that main event, right? This is a fun card for the Michael Chandler highlight, and sometimes that's what you get. You got this massive year of the knockout of the year highlight, and what was the sacrifice you had to make to the MMA gods? The rest of the card kind of was you know. I'm not gonna say it sucked, but it was So hopefully the sleeper fight night that we have next week, Angela Hill's making a return, Caitlin Chikagian versus Amanda Hebos, right? We got Frank the Crank Camacho, you know what I mean? Come on, we got some bangers on here. Should be fun. You looking forward to it, brother?
I am looking forward to it, man. I've been, you know, and as for as many sleepy fights as Rakic has had, I was a big Rakic fan for a while until Prochazka came around. Yeah. So I'm hoping this one reignites that little bit of spark that Rakic had. And same thing for Blachowicz. I think he deserves a win, if anything. Given the fight to Glover, you know, there's a lot of credit, man, that a lot of people don't give him. So I'm hoping he kind of bounces back as well. This is one of those ones where I don't really want to see the guy lose. I'm not sad whenever either one of them does, you know?
Basically saying no dog in the fight. You know, let it be a good fight. Hopefully it is. Yeah, exactly. So, folks, I think that's it for us, man. This has been a little bit of a long one. Like I said, there was a lot of fights to break down, a lot of fights to cover, but I think the main takeaway that you need to have from here is that if you want to win some money on some prop bets, we're showing you kind of week in and week out now. We are hitting on these props. We're not just hitting on a money line. Oh, I think this guy will win, but how are they going to win? And we're hitting on those too. So I'll just say that. And one last time to put it away, folks, drop a like, subscribe, share the show with your friends, and we will catch up with you next time. Next Friday, we will be breaking down UFC Vegas 54. Brother, any last words for the people?
Man, I think the biggest one, and it just came to mind right now because Derick, you brought up the prop bets. Folks, if you don't understand how the betting goes, don't worry about it. Just tune in, listen to us, subscribe. We got you. Just trust us. Look at those numbers. We got you going. Best MMA show in the entire world. And we'll be with you next week. We love the support. We thank you all the time. It's been a lot of fun.
Like I said, the golden voice of my man AJ over here. Very Michael Chandler-esque. But, folks, that is it for us. And until next time, peace.